This is the incredible story of a tiny robot that stared right into the eye of a Category 5 hurricane and didn't even blink. Today, we're going to break down exactly how it pulled that off.
But first, just think about that question for a second. How on earth do you get data from the very heart of a storm with winds so powerful they can literally tear buildings apart? For scientists, this has always been this huge, almost impossible challenge. I mean, you can't send people or big expensive equipment in there. It's just way too dangerous.
Well, the answer, and you're not going to believe this, wasn't some giant armored battleship. Nope. It was this little autonomous robot called a Sea Star. And to really understand how this was even possible, we need to rewind a bit and go back to the beginning of the story.
So our story actually starts not with a hurricane, but with a failure. And it starts with a woman named Anahita Laverack, a really experienced sailor who, funnily enough, originally wanted to be an aerospace engineer. And she's the one who stumbled upon this massive problem that was hiding in plain sight. Back in 2021, Laverack entered something called the Microtransat Challenge. The goal sounds simple, but it is brutally difficult. Get a small, autonomous robot to sail itself all the way across the Atlantic. And get this, to this day, nobody has ever actually succeeded. Laverack's attempt was no exception.
But that failure led to a huge aha moment. The problem wasn't just that the ocean is a tough place to be. As Laverack put it, she realized the real issue was that we just don't have enough data. The ocean is basically a massive data desert. You can't program a little robot to navigate a storm if you don't even know what the weather is doing out there.
So, realizing this data gap wasn't just a robotics problem, it was a huge business opportunity. Laverack completely pivoted. Instead of trying to build one robot to cross that data desert, she decided to build a whole bunch of them to fill it. And that's how her company, Oshen, was born. And things moved incredibly fast. After that challenge in 2021, she and her co-founder, Ciaran Dowds, started Oshen in April of 2022. They didn't go the usual route of raising venture capital. Instead, they just pooled their own savings, bought a small sailboat, and for 2 years, that little boat was their entire company headquarters and testing lab. Yeah, forget some fancy, comfortable lab. Their whole operation was run from a 25-foot sailboat docked at the cheapest marina they could find in the UK. They would literally build their robots on the boat and then immediately toss them into the brutal conditions of winter storms to see if they'd survive. As Laverack said, that led to some adventure. I'll bet it did.
So, what was it that made their Sea Star robots so special? Well, as Laverack pointed out, other companies could build really advanced robots, sure. Or they could build cheap robots. Or they could build robots you could deploy in huge numbers. But getting all three of those things right, advanced, cheap, and mass deployable, that was the holy grail. And Oshen, they figured it out.
This massive innovation got the attention of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. They'd actually talked to Oshen a couple of years earlier, but the tech just wasn't quite there yet. But now, after being battle-tested in those vicious UK winter storms, NOAA called again. It was time for the ultimate test, a real trial by fire. Or, well, in this case, trial by hurricane.
And Oshen had to scramble. With just 2 months to go before the 2025 hurricane season kicked off, they built and shipped 15 Sea Star robots straight to NOAA. This was it. This was their shot to prove that their tiny, scrappy startup could hang on the world stage.
So the mission was a go. 5 of these little Sea Stars were deployed near the U.S. Virgin Islands, dropped right into the predicted path of Hurricane Humberto. The hope was that they might, maybe, collect some useful data before the storm really hit.
But Hurricane Humberto, well, it didn't play nice. It intensified, and it intensified rapidly into a monstrous, terrifying Category 5 storm. These tiny robots, which were tested in winter gales, were now facing one of the most destructive forces on the entire planet.
And then the results started coming in. And against all odds, an absolutely unbelievable 3 of the Sea Star robots didn't just survive the storm. They kept transmitting data from the very heart of it the whole way through. This was a world first. Seriously, for the first time in human history, we got an inside look at a Category 5 hurricane. And it was all thanks to a little robot that, by all accounts, had absolutely no business surviving it. Okay, so this is way more than just a cool survival story. This breakthrough has some really profound implications. So what does being able to see inside the storm actually unlock for all of us? Well, with swarms of these cheap, durable robots, we can finally start to fill in that massive ocean data desert we talked about. And that means dramatically better hurricane forecasting, which will absolutely save lives.
It means we get clearer data on how our oceans are changing for climate models. It even has applications for national defense. What this really means is that we are entering a brand new era of understanding our oceans.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought. Ocean's journey started with a failed attempt to cross the ocean, and it ended with creating a robot that could survive its absolute worst fury. It just goes to show you that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from looking at a problem from a completely different angle. So, if we can now see inside the storm, what else is hiding out there in that vast data desert just waiting for us to find?